if they want to take down the Titans in STMN that they are. I mean, they've already done so with Tribe Gaming today, so what's one more for the fellas here? They're going to start things off with Safe Zone. People at home, all right, I will say this is one of the closer ones we've had today already. 67 or 2/3 of the audience at home are riding with STMN, but some people are feeling a little frisky. They're going to go with the underdogs in Juan Carlos team.
This is maybe a little bold, but I think you got to be a little silly, maybe a little goofy to be betting against STMN when Safe Zone is in the map pool. This is like the STMN map. I remember seeing the map pool first from Bobby on Twitter when he tweeted out, "We used to pray for times like this," clearly in reference to Safe Zone being the only heist map in rotation for this monthly finals. And this is the second, actually third time that they had the possibility of playing it today. They've had it in every single map, or actually no, this is their second time having it in the map pool today. But still, 2 is one more than you would usually see a map in rotation for any other monthly final. We'll be getting started with a Colette pick from Juan Carlos team. Now, how do you react to this? Doesn't look like 8-Bit's been banned on either side. I think an 8-Bit pick could be secured here. Bell 8-Bit may be the move for Stamina.
Bell, a very safe selection. Nani could be a pick here as well if they want to kind of just have some safe long-range capabilities that can deal damage and also do well into Colette in particular. No Chuck, and of course, Melody and Angelo being removed here as well is just some staples on this map. I don't mind this. I mean, Nani going to be a very common pick on this map, a very successful one at that. They can now have just 2 brawlers that do really solid into the range of somebody like Colette, who's going to be a little underclassed in that sense.
You know what slipped my mind, actually, is that Piper has not been banned out here. So maybe that's why Stamina have opted to go for this composition, not go for that 8-Bit just yet. I want to also point out that Charlie has been banned by Juan Carlos' team. Watching that match earlier where Stamina picked Charlie here on Safe Zone was a bit puzzling to me. Charlie's not historically a very great brawler on this map. Sam is entering this so early. I mean, that's the second best brawler right there. He's going to be playing it here on the selection screen, and also he's undoubtedly going to be playing it in the game. I don't see this really switching over to anyone else, but this is an early time to be picking Sam. STMN have picked 2 brawlers that actually aren't really good into Sam. They don't churn out a ton of damage in close range, so Stamina are going to have to be wise about their final pick to counter the Sam, maybe not using it as like the power pick that pops off uncontested.
They're going to go with a Max as their final selection here, too. So they're going to pair the speed and the utility of Max alongside Sam. And they can make this Sam pick a little bit more easily due to what STMN picked. The order of operations here, I think, is important. Colette going first off the board. Bell, Nani, safe selection to kind of counter that out. And because they go with the Sam, they're able to get more aggressive, and they have the Colette on their side, so they have to worry about as many counters. But picking Griff, a great shout. I think that's a good blend of range, damage, and also brawlers that can deal well with Sam in particular.
It's unconventional for sure, but it's also something that's not going to get rushed down by the Max or the Sam like Brock would, and yet it still has the same free wall break. Note that Colt has been banned by Juan Carlos' team, so that's more wall break that has been out of the mix. I think Nani would be able to break those 2x2 walls at mid just fine, but you need to be able to get these walls broken early instead of waiting for Nani to get a super, because you will get rushed down super hard. I think this is a creative way to do it. You don't really ever see the Griff here. In fact, in the qualifiers, he only has a 50% win rate. But I trust STMN to make it happen. Zara's going to be getting the kill on second best early on, already stymieing this early push from Juan Carlos' team, where they get 6%.
It's just a great selection into them as well. Despite that 50%, I think this is about as good of a matchup as they could have asked for with the remaining brawlers on the board, especially things like Charlie banned out, teleport in from Sand. Second best able to survive enough to at least grab one. Bobby rushing this down, though, dropping a nest egg for extra control of this map here, too. They isolate Zara on this top left-hand side. He's just trying to juggle Juan Carlos and Pain, who's now dropping some speed for second best to move up the map.
And he trips the mine on the right side. Good connection for Juan Carlos as well. Sans is going to try and teleport forward. Does I take it back? He cut me off so quickly. The full shot as well to shut down the mid brawler, but he has to fall back once more. STMN find themselves in a majorly defensive position. Sam's job is essentially to run it down the entire game. It doesn't matter if he's feeding supers or anything. He will be feeding the hypercharge to Bobby, who's already popped at Pain, dodging so many of those shots, but Bobby still locks in the kill. Juan Carlos also being relatively evasive, and second best on the back right. He cannot be uncontested. It's going to be Zara's responsibility to defend him.
Zara in a one-on-one matchup against second best, so if Bobby and Sans can get positive in terms of damage, they're going to be in a pretty good spot to teleport through, and Juan Carlos going to be stuffed down with a Nani there, trying to get the backswing, can't quite connect. Sans survives, and with 481, now it's he who can do the damage with a damage gear as well. That's going to add up quickly.
Wonder why this wall around the back right isn't being broken. Maybe Zar sees it as a good way to actually pinch Sam. If he can keep Sam from doing damage to the safe, then it allows Bobby and Sans to win their respective long-range matchups. Sure, they don't have a ton of safe damage, and yes, they also have the risk of getting run down by the Max, but this is just trust in teamwork. I don't think it's misplaced trust. Stamina have managed to stop any damage coming in on their safe. We do see the kill on Pain that's going to enable a nice push in from STMN, possibly their last of the game. They shut down Juan Carlos as he goes in for a super. 20 seconds left. Second Best has to make a move.
Beautiful chess match being played by S-Team in there. They're relying on these long-range brawlers that have a huge advantage in Colette, and they're shutting down Colette, who's an answer to getting high save damage, but a little surge coming in from Juan Carlos team. A super eliminating him. Second Best trying to connect with Bobby. 5 seconds on the clock. They have enough time. They get the shot through. Colette fires an extra one for good measure as well. And Juan Carlos team putting one on the board in the final moments.
Well done for Juan Carlos team. What a patient game played by Second Best there in the back right. He knew that he was not going to be doing anything into the Griff if he decided to push him solo without any assistance. We saw Griff knowing the exact same, hey, if I literally just sit here, then it's going to be completely fine. I'm still a little puzzled on why he didn't break open that wall on the right side. I guess maybe he didn't want to deal with Second Best bobbying and weaving his way in, because there are only a couple of corridors that Second Best could have used to push on the point. May have just been more advantageous for Zar to fire down those corridors instead of giving any room for Second Best to dodge.
Could be a sign of respect as well, or just maybe not wanting to get grabbed by something like a Gadget and Sam Super combining to kind of pull him in. So I think all things considered, I think it's just good plays by Second Best. I think it made sense from STMN, and despite them losing that game, I did respect the logic as well.
So far, so much better for Stamina than game number 1. They've already locked in 30% on the enemy safe. And here's the wall break too. Early kill onto Zar as well. Juan Carlos team looked for an opportunity to get on the safe, and that they shall receive. Juan Carlos emerges with actually quite a bit of damage taken off of him. Good shots in from STMN. We'll see Bobby secure the kill, and another one onto Pain. Hypercharge. They approach the enemy safe. More damage on top of that safe. That's all it is. Down to 50%. That was 20% in one teeny tiny push from Stamina just moments ago. And once more, Sam locked in the back right. He knows that this is exactly where he needs to be, and it's up to his two teammates to win their respective matchups.
And now Zar can let loose a little bit here too. Bobby going down is going to be a toughie though. It's one less brawler they have on their side, so Second Best can let loose a little bit. They work down the lane, but they can't quite make connections onto that high safe for much longer. Still a huge lead here for STMN, but Pain trying to give his team a little surge here to get back in the fight.
Not only was that a super, but it was a hypercharged super as well. How close is Juan Carlos is what I want to know. Good tap by Sans. Second Best looking for life as he does manage to stay alive in the back right. But still, Zar respawning to defend him. We saw actually Second Best juked a super from Zar that was almost guaranteed to kill him. Managed to get some super nice damage on that safe in the process. Sans and Bobby left alone on the safe. That's the kill shot. Sans taking the damage. The teleport behind you. Nothing personal, kid. It's game 3 coming.
Tough one there. I feel like STMN recovered quite well in game number 2. Sam just kind of locked out at the top. I feel like, again, I kind of see the vision for not opening that up. It's just, if you can keep him back there and go even, it's totally fine. The only time where we saw it kind of get out of hand a little bit, we saw Bobby go down middle of the game, and at that point, Griff's got 2 brawlers, one coming from the mid, and Juan Carlos, or excuse me, Second Best, Juan Carlos's team coming up from the top right. So that made things a little trickier, but I think I'm kind of with keeping that wall up.
Okay, interesting approach here from Sam as he moves to the right side. That Griff is immediately going to be breaking the wall at the beginning of the game, so usually Sam would be smacking his knuckle busters up against that wall to stay alive. This time he simply can't. He's not even going for the back right this time. They know that him being locked in that back right corner is not a winning strategy. It didn't work in the last game, after all. So now they're pivoting strategies, now trying to work more as a team. Sam has some good team play that he can go for if he uses his super and then stuns an enemy, pulling them back. It allows Juan Carlos possibly to get a super and also work on charging his hypercharge. You see Bobby, though, equipped with the hypercharge and the super. The mark on the Pain, another connection, one more, and it'll be taken down. But Pain uses the super sort of to push in, but is immediately shut down and has to use it to retreat anyway. Juan Carlos, though, now has his hypercharge and his super combined. There'll be a ton of damage on the safe.
Zaru had the freedom to move up and destroy that little 4-pronged barrel set right there as well, so that's huge for STMN. It just makes it harder for second best. Less places to throw his super. A teleport through for Sands. He's going to slip past the defense here, keep things a little more even, but every time he connects a full-blown shot, 4,400-ish damage. That's a big deal as Bobby is just forced to play defense now.
Saw Colette get a couple shots on Bobby as well. 2 more, and we'll see another Colette super come in. 45 remain on Stamina Safe. The second best tries to push in on the right. It takes an entire Griff super to shut him down, and Juan Carlos ends up getting marked. That's actually really dangerous for Juan Carlos. I think he might be the ideal target to mark here, since he's going to be giving the most safe damage at a comfortable range. Second best still trying to move in on the safe, bobbing, weaving, and juking to the best of his ability, but cannot make any contact. We're down to 30 seconds remaining in the game, and Stamina finally have a sizable push on the safe.
And they need second best to make contact. The scoreboard is close, and they need to find their way into the other end, and this is one way to do it here. Pain with the hypercharge, throwing down some blast onto that safe, but Max isn't going to equate to much. It's only going to allow them for 11% here with a Nani Peep teleport.
Teleport in, it's getting dicey. Visual on both safes at the same time. Juan Carlos team rushing it down to 2K left on the safe. Now down to 1.7. A big hypercharge defense on the home front. 2 seconds left for Stamina to respond, but 16 damage is simply too much to ask. We see set 1 go to the way of Juan Carlos team.
Underdogs once again showing what they've got. This is a career kind of performance from these guys. It's been a long time since they have won some monthly finals. Like you mentioned earlier, we've seen some strong stuff in the past from these guys, whether that be through Vatra, second best, been around for a long time, and the team this year has just kind of come together for a great blend of strengths. And even though second best, I don't feel like got the most value out of that map, 2 teammates in the other end had his back. We talked about trust with STMN in certain spots. Same can be said from Juan Carlos team. The mechanics through there, the strategy pretty well thought through. I think all around it's just working out for both sides pretty well, but just a little bit better for Juan Carlos team.
In spite of the wall break, we saw Sam do fairly well, and in some cases, it just locked down the Griff on the home territory, or in this case, from our perspective, the enemy territory for STMN. One thing that we saw was that Griff never actually really made a push on the enemy side. He was a career defender, and we saw much of the same actually happen for the remainder of STMN. We saw some moments where they connected with the safe, and actually they were, of course, factoring Griff out of the equation, the only ones dealing substantial damage to the Juan Carlos team safe, but it simply was not enough to get them the win overall. That final push in, we saw a couple of hypercharges earned by Colette in that one. How that happened, I have to wonder what changed for Juan Carlos, as those first couple of games, it was remarkably challenging for him to get those hypers.
Well, I imagine this is going to be a crazy one in the stat line. Oh my, 16, 14, and 14. You got to think second best threw down a few kills. And like we said, Nani and Bell, fantastic matchup into Colette, especially when those wall breaks go down. But if you just looked at the numbers ready, I would have thought STM would have won. I mean, that's just some crazy, crazy stuff.
427 DPS, but that's also the sign of a player that is being forced off the objective. You want your damage to connect with that enemy safe, and I see a lot of Bobby's damage going onto Juan Carlos, Pain, and second best. Instead of the objective, I see Pain also getting a lot of kills here and some pretty sizable DPS. You do the math, but that works out to essentially a lot of max speeds. And in many cases, that's a win condition. That's what keeps that Nanny and the Bell back. Even if Sam is going in on offense and dying, STMN have to move backwards, and every single step back, I mean, that doubles their effort to get towards the enemy safe.
Numbers are nice, but at the end of the day, it's how you play the game mode, and kills aren't what count, but it definitely kept STMN afloat in that one. They were just kind of hovering in that mid, trying to push past every time. It was just second best sprinting at him, a Colette dive in, Max with some speed to press forward, so making some contact got easier and easier as they pressed closer and closer, but as a result, they closed in on that high safe as well. So for Juan Carlos team, a great showing. I think STMN are definitely still in this one, given how close that set was in general. Dueling Beetles, though, a very punishing at map ready. If you lose control, if they get past that indestructible wall and put you in your spawn, it can be really hard to reverse it.
It's a pretty draft dependent map. There are many strategies that work out here. and it's hard to mechanics your way out of a bad draft, especially at this level of play for sure, but map-wise as well. This is where we start to see some throwers become really, really viable. Maybe some thrower 1v1. I always think about what Sprout can do here. Sometimes Barley can also be a viable ban if you're expecting the other throwers to be banned out. He's just kind of lower in the thrower food chain, if you will, engage with me on that line of thinking. I look to Larry, I look to Jesse as being something good here. Pam is a real power pick here. Angelo first selection from Stamina that was deliberately left open from Juan Carlos' team, which indicates that they know that they can play into it.
A bold call as well. I mean, Angelo is a phenomenal brawler in the game right now, and presuming it's Bobby once again playing this brawler, a great person to pilot it as well. They're going to go with the speed of Max, which traditionally we do see played into the single sharpshooters, the Pipers, the Bells of the world, and it can definitely work out. I think Max is a very strong brawler right now, too. I'm just curious to see what they pair this with. They don't have Poco available, which I think Stamina see right through. It's actually been a pretty popular choice for this team, and also this map in particular in practices, and they're going to grab B on the other end. It's actually surprisingly been a more popular brawler this week in particular for practices.
I'm surprised. I don't see anything that really synergizes with a Max just yet, but what I think is a mentality here is B into Max. This is actually an interaction that we used to talk a lot about last year before Max fell off in the meta, and so did B, actually. They were simply outclassed by things in many cases. I think that this can be a little bit challenging with the lanes being kind of closed in. I feel like B most often is going to be a lane on this map. Max, you can play on either lane or mid. Since Juan Carlos' team had that last pick, though, I think they're concealing what they're going to be pairing up with the Max, possibly baiting out some anti-tank stuff that they'll counter with control, stuff that outranges it. B is one of those, sure, but I think B is more here to take that option away from STMN.
Griff to open things up here too, so kind of just playing into that longer range comp that they're looking for. Curious to see who they kind of pair this with as the clock winds down for STMN here. Traditionally, we'd see something like that B Griff go together, but instead, an Angelo will certainly work. I mean, that guy can certainly hit some long range and high damage dealing shots. So I feel like there's a lot on the board here, but they're just going to go with something safe, something good, and something that's been good for months. It's going to be Charlie.
Well done. That'll be good for shutting down aggressive stuff that gets in close range. Could entirely be a bait to get them to run this kind of stuff. Something like Amber might be an option here, but they have to be concerned about how that Angelo is going to pan out. Angelo is absolutely monstrous. I'm getting some word from the Stat Monkey right now, and he's telling me that Angelo has a 70% or 75% win rate. No, I'm actually not joking. Oh my gosh, look at me. I should be running the drafts.
I thought you were going to talk about the Sandy that he was predicting. It's actually going to be Amber, though, which I think kind of plays into a similar role. I think it's going to be able to pierce through the shots of those spiders if they elect to go for that. Has the long range to zone off that left or right-hand lane. Griff can blow open the map, but somebody like Amber can kind of play into that long distance still and just pepper away with the flamethrower.
I think in many cases, Amber is here to make sure that you don't get run down. I don't necessarily see anyone from STMN doing that, with the exception of Charlie. She's also just good into Charlie by virtue of being able to burn down the spiders. Wow, look at all of those bushes completely vanish. It's going to conceal Bobby pretty safely in here. Bobby, nice snipe through the wall. A lot of times you will see Angelo go for the jump, but in moments like these, you will switch to the piercing through the wall shot, as you don't really get much value from jumping away from an enemy that's not aggressive.
And it's also nice for a little bit of surprise attack here. I mean, he is running out of grass, so not going to be able to pick up as many of those due to Amber's flamethrower, but nonetheless, I think it's still a great way to deal with that. STMN finally clawing their way for some kind of control here. They need it desperately. They're down over 30 or almost 20% at this point. A very tough beat for them as Pain gets immediately eliminated from the cocoon, and Juan Carlos might be left all alone here in a moment.
I see it taken back by STMN so far, but they're on really low health. Bobby also deliberately staying on low health, possibly to take advantage of some of that damage gear. Nice snipe on the Pain as well. And STMN seem to have gotten the control back. They'll be eclipsing Juan Carlos' team's percentage in just a moment here. Now advancing beyond the 40% threshold. You see Juan Carlos taking a lot of damage thanks to that super from Zar. Sands now looking for the hypercharge action. Good kill on second best. And they're just waiting for an enemy to hatch out of this cocoon. Down goes Pain, and Juan Carlos is the only to remain.
STMN are just disgusting. I mean, Angelo's hitting these long-range shots. He's playing with confidence with that damage gear. They get the major cocoon and hypercharge. Sands once again surviving. Finally, Juan Carlos gets a takedown, and they needed this one badly. STMN have really started to run away with it.
This is super back and forth. Bobby is going to be the one constant on STMN. He's the one person that is not going to be running at enemies, but he might be locked in this nook on the left side. Second best and Juan Carlos are gearing up for a big push in. Sands has his cocoon ready, waiting for a nice moment to jump in. If Pain gets pretty low thanks to Zar, then that would be ideal. But second best and Juan Carlos, their health is gradually dwindling, and there's the hypercharge as well. It doesn't look like Juan Carlos got a super off of that. They'll break Pain out of the cocoon, but Zar is waiting. Spawn camping, if you will. 40 seconds remain, but it doesn't look like STMN are going to need that much time to finish this one out as they climb beyond the point of no return.
That was a huge moment there to get that kill. Gave him a little momentum to ride into that hot zone and get some valuable percentage points. But this could be the final stand for both these teams, and Juan Carlos takes advantage. Sands puts him in a cocoon, though, so he's not going to be able to get any charge here. Bobby with perfect precision and timing, looking to duel, grabs another one. Second best forced away, and ice in his veins. STMN grab the game.
That's only one game of set number 2. It felt like a century, but we're only one step to STMN possibly closing this set. It was serious opposition from Juan Carlos' team. In many cases, it looked like they were actually running the show. The Amber, right off the beginning of the match, got her super and broke open those bushes. The one thing that I did see remain constant was Bobby's uptime. He was not falling. He was staying back, just lining up those snipes. We see second best with his speed, able to juke out some of those shots, but as far as sharpshooters, they're not even putting Juan Carlos on the same lane. He's versus Sands at the moment. He might look for an opportunity to switch onto that lane versus Bobby, but he is pretty squishy. Could get one tap by the Angelo, especially now that he has his damage gear active.
It's another phenomenal start for Juan Carlos' team, too. Similarly to game number 1, they started with about 35% in the bank, and STMN nowhere in sight right now. Pain aggressive on this right-hand in. Second best, just maneuvering around the mid a little bit, dropping the speed whenever necessary. And Juan Carlos with a nice lane matchup against somebody like Zar. If Juan Carlos is tapping, Zar's going to have a harder time there. And oh my goodness, just everything connecting right now for Juan Carlos. They grab another pickup.
Here comes the Rattled Hive, kill onto Bobby. He can't hide behind the wall when the bees are here to play. Zar now falls, 0% claim for STMN. They gotta get something. This would be terrible for team morale. Bobby looks to close in. Sands also trying to force himself on this point. They are gonna get the chance, and in fact, might even get a semblance of control on the point. 1%, it seems, is all that they will claim as Juan Carlos respond to a Game 1 win for Stamina with a complete shutout.
I mean, at least they got on the board, though, ready. 100 to 1. That's crazy. Especially considering the distance game number 1 with Juan Carlos' team shake it off and show up for game number 2, and they shut it down.
That is pretty surprising. How do STMN get this initial control? I think much of it relies on Angelo getting some valuable interactions here. Sands now throwing down these hatchlings once again, or spider hatchlings, if you will. Pain also now contending with a lack of range on the right side, a lack of cover as well. Bobby is taking full advantage, almost a move on a second best, a curious phase shifter around the unbreakable too. Yeah, it's you see it from time to time, but it never gets less jarring.
It was pretty cool. I was thinking the exact same thing. Not too often you see something like that, but second best, it's a flashy player, a lot of pins. I mean, of all people, it wouldn't surprise me that he was the one to pull that off.
Well, Sands on the right side finds himself into Juan Carlos in this matchup. Low on health, Juan Carlos gets the kill. Didn't provide him any outs. It was a complete checkmate with a combo of the Rattled Hive and the peek around the wall. But Bobby has his name and his number. STMN look to grab back control at this point. Could be challenging with the hypercharge popped on the left side. Second best is on dangerously low HP. Juan Carlos looks to regain control. No contact with the use of the super. STMN are gradually climbing towards Juan Carlos' team's capture so far, and Sands finds himself in a very comfortable position in the enemy bushes, camping on top of this cocoon and claiming a kill of Pain.
Wow, it's a huge swing here. A piggy bank being disposed of in the middle of the grass there too, so no room to hide for Juan Carlos' team. No sneaky shots from B, no Amber getting aggressive. Can be much tougher as Zar looks for an angle, a beautiful connection there with the cocoon. They're going to try and help a teammate out, but it's not going to be enough. A shutdown from STMN and continue just pummeling of Juan Carlos' team.
Folks, we already know how this one's going to go. 90% and counting for STMN. Sands on the aggressive once again. Claims a kill of Juan Carlos. Falls to the burn, but it doesn't even matter. The first set pickup for STMN, but a very close one. Almost fell in favor of Juan Carlos' team for the second time in a row.
couldn't have any more of 3 different games. We had a marathon game 1, a speed run game 2, and in game 3, STMN said, we'll give you a little bit, but after that, it was just smooth sailing. I mean, it's so crazy how these pro players are playing these same exact brawlers 3 straight games, and there are so many different results.
It's one of the beautiful things about this format is that, you know, of course, draft is interesting in itself, but the way that you can find to play 3 games completely differently, the emergent strategy, and I think it also puts some emphasis on how important the beginning of the game is. We saw a strong start from Juan Carlos' team in game number 2, and it carried them throughout the entire game. But something changed for Stamina in game number 3. I personally saw Sands making some way flashier plays. I think also something that we saw was immediate wall break for Griff that might have been a little bit concerning. How much value are we going to be giving to Juan Carlos if we break open the wall? Well, seems like they were able to dodge him pretty well, and they placed Bobby on that lane to deal with him.
I think in general, we just got to learn that we can't give Bobby the Angelo. We saw it in game number 1. He wasn't going down. It's the most pesky mosquito I've ever seen. There are stories as old as time as this man on the Piper. I don't know why there'd be any other reason to believe he wouldn't be fantastic on a speedy Angelo. Awesome stuff here. High DPS, 12 kills for himself. Sands though popping off as well. That's a great comment to kind of go with here too. I mean, Charlie, a great brawler, but Sands piloting it really well. I didn't feel like, despite, you know, you see the stats of Zara only having 3 kills, I definitely didn't feel like he held them back. If anything, I think it was a very necessary pick with that piggy bank to kind of let the others shine at times.
This is quite interesting. I love seeing Bobby play this Angelo in particular. We saw Sands saying, give me the Sandy, and maybe this is our time to say Bobby says, give me the Angie, or something like that. I feel like I'm stretching the logic here, but I still want to find out where Zara fits into all of this. I think that the Griff was a creative way to get that wall break to avail some control to Bobby. I think they leaned a lot on what Bobby and Sands were capable of doing. And Zara's a real mechanical player. He's a flashy player as well, so him being willing to, you know, kind of take the backseat, play more of a support role, because I don't think Griff is like the pop-off brawler in this comp. I think is owing to the type of synergy and the type of teamwork that these guys have to offer.
I agree. I think he played his role well. I mean, again, opening up the map very strategically and even disrupting the grass a little bit on the other end, I think was a huge contributor for him. Spain looking down at the tablet screen, trying to lock back in. Calm, cool, and composed. We've never really seen this guy lose his mind or freak out on the other end as well. You saw us teammate in that player cam kind of shrug off the shoulders. Bobby just relaxing, getting in the groove of things. They're all settled down here, and we all know how important set number 3 is.
It's time for Bell's Rock for a bit of knockout. This is a contentious map. People have some pretty harsh opinions on this one. I know SSG, despite them not being here today, have some huge opinions on Bell's Rock. They have 0 good experiences with it, but this is Stamina. I still think that this is going to be an interesting one. We watched them play this earlier today, so whether they were concealing something then, is that going to be taken advantage of by Juan Carlos' team? Of course, their semifinal was played before STMN's semifinal, so maybe they had some time to get in the lab and concoct something to deal with the STMN picks here previously.
With all that information, they don't end up with pick number 1 on the Juan Carlos side, so the bans are pretty straightforward. You go with Melody, you go with Angelo just anytime, anywhere. And as a result, Kit gets left open for them. Tick RT Rico on the other end. I love Meg in general on this, but Kit has some real cheeky strategies you can pull off here.
It got a buff too. You do more damage with the super and you do more damage with the main attack. The only thing of Kit that actually got nerfed is something that was quite frustrating to deal with. I would call it a noob killer strategy, is that free invis that you can get from using the gadget. Got nerfed from 5 seconds down to 3 seconds. So it's a pretty major nerf. That's like a 40% nerf right there. Only thing is though, that's mainly going to be used to charge up the super that makes Kit good at this level of play. We're looking at 2 healers, 2 support brawlers on Juan Carlos' team, and Byron also is able to flex outside of that support role. You could say the same for Kit, you know, get some assassin action going on in here. I don't really see it being used that much in terms of I don't foresee it being used like that. But Byron is definitely more of a flexible pick. I think pretty good into enemy snipers as well, like fairly consistent. Doesn't really suck too much. We'll see Piper from Stamina, good comfortable pick for them. Good consistent brawler as well. Could switch to the knockback if they need. Larry Laurie is also an early pick because they know they're going to be up against a thrower when that Kit gets on someone. Kit Miko, man, how do you let an enemy get this? They must be fearless because they knew that this was coming.
Yeah, I think at that point, I love the fact that they pick Kit early, kind of revealing their hand a little bit, right? Instead of going for the aggressive brawler like Miko or name whatever tank that they could have possibly gone with here too. A lot of times you'll see a Buster and things like that. They go for Byron. They're just trying to power up this combo, and then they have a flex spot at the end for whoever they get. Miko, obviously the dream scenario for them in this case. I think Miko on the back of somebody like Kit is crazy, especially when Miko drops that super. Things get really spicy.
I want to say, honestly, like, for the Larry, say goodbye to ever being able to touch that Miko. I want to credit STMN with knowing that they would be facing a Miko because it's open and Kit is in play too. But, like, what is their vision here? It leaves Zar incredibly vulnerable. Once Juan Carlos gets the super, then Pain's just going to be jumping around and Juan Carlos is going to be auto-aiming his heart out.
First, I believe Miko of the entire weekend, according to our stats man behind the scenes, and Juan Carlos going to be picking up a kill to even things out here as well. Sans Bobby going to have to deal with that. A nice jump away. Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect to leave Kit all on his own, and now he doesn't have a chance.
What a disaster! Juan Carlos team, we see the Miko jump in. It was his last shot. He didn't have time to jump away, it seemed, and got hit by all of those heart bombs from Bobby. That is a travesty in motion. Bobby tries to get the kill, but he's helpless in close range against the Kit and Miko. They're healing so much. Sans, even with all of his health, cannot contend with his combination. An easy kill onto Zar, most likely. And we'll see these guys just farm up their super for the next round. Meg, outside of the mech, is incredibly weak. It's a chance for Juan Carlos to get his super and be ready to, right off the starting blocks, get on Pain's back.
And as a result, Seconds Best can focus all his attention on sprays and pins, trying to rack that scorecard up for himself. Easy round there for Juan Carlos team. And once again, ready, they walk in with 3 supers to start off round number 3.
Okay, looks like Miko goes in. Do we see Juan Carlos try and jump on him after he lands? It's going to take a lot of coordination. He's thinking about it. Pain needs some help. Here it comes. No gadget as well. Good takedowns, however, as Sans has popped out of the mech. And Bobby's looking very vulnerable. And Juan Carlos' team are just showing us how it's done with the Kit Miko. I will reiterate, how does this get through the draft?
I can't help but chuckle. Like, this is insane. How are you supposed to just rationally deal with this strategy? Byron there to heal, Miko to jump, Kit to ride Miko's back. So that's 2 brawlers during that jump. You're not getting tagged by. It's just difficult to deal with, despite a perfect jump from Piper and Bobby there to get that kill. That was the best thing they can do. Once they have 2 to 3 supers on the side of Juan Carlos' team, it's unstoppable.
This must have gone differently in scrims or in their head because this just ain't it. STMN, the Kit and Miko is already a very known strategy. You saw in the stat screen as we were going through draft just what a ridiculous win rate Miko has here. It's the 2nd highest win rate on this map. And while STMN might not be like the stat monkeys, they sure know damn well how this combination usually goes.
And the heal's coming in from Byron, the heal's coming in from Kit. It's an indestructible monkey ready. There's just nothing you can do about it. They still got a super in the back pocket too. Larry Laurie there to distract a little bit, but they switch spots. Could be disastrous for Zar. They get an even trade. Second Best there to heal up though, but now they have an incoming mech they got to deal with.
Well, Juan Carlos is doing more damage than they did in the previous patch. It's enough to kick Meg outside of the mech. It's going to be tough for her to get it back. I think Bobby actually has some real potential to turn around this game for STMN. Sans, now without a shield, is looking quite vulnerable. I think we could see a pretty serious combo with Juan Carlos jumping onto Sans and then Second Best looking to take advantage. Now this poison is closing in. Juan Carlos is looking for something. They could just throw the round, but they decide not to. Jump on a Bobby. Lots of damage taken. Juan Carlos gets a kill. Sans gets in the mech. No. Stunned. In the final few seconds, Sans looks for the kill, but there's simply too much health to get through. And there's another super for Juan Carlos for the beginning of round 2.
That was an heroic effort from Meg, but once again, too overwhelming. Kit there to isolate Brawler. Second Best lands the follow-through shots easy enough, and now Juan Carlos with a slowdown. The extra shots going in as well. Second Best piercing through enemies. The poison trickling him down, but not quite enough for a kill yet. At least a fighting chance here for STMN.
Juan Carlos loses his super now. He's going to have to wait for it to come back. STMN know that if they group up and simply wait out the Kit Miko strat, then they get some time before Juan Carlos gets it back. Now, it does auto-charge, folks, but it's going to take a while. Miko's also going to be a little bit helpless until that time arrives. They're just changing positions, waiting for this moment. They're back. Now they look to jump onto Bobby. The slow as well. Sans has a swipe, but it misses! Complete whiff as Pain and Juan Carlos were airborne and completely invulnerable. Juan Carlos looks for the kill on Meg. Will it come true? He's getting the heals from second best, and here is he out of frame, now making contact from Pain. We'll see Juan Carlos and Pain now closing in from top and bottom, out of the mech, and the final shot comes in from Juan Carlos' team to administer the killing blow in this set number 3.
The only thing that could have made that combination more filthy is if you could go out of frame with Kit and still drop the, yarn balls. Like, that's just an impossible thing to deal with. Really difficult situation. I think in fairness, like you said, though, they did leave it open. There's a lot to juggle in these drafts and with the ban stage and the pick stage. Again, the win rates for qualifiers weren't necessarily through the route for Kit in particular, but we know how good Miko can be on this map. So I think once they see that, it's probably a little bit of a, hey, we got to recognize that this could be a problem, and maybe it wasn't as big of a problem in practices. Maybe this is just something hidden that Juan Carlos team kept their cards close to them, but nonetheless, it was a phenomenal strategy that paid off.
I think Stamina found out sort of the meta strategy, sort of what can you do when you're in game as a team rather than what can you do in the pick phase to deal with this Kit Miko strategy. And they located it. We saw them in game number 2 in that last round. They huddled up in the back right of the map around some of these walls, and they knew, yes, that's how we're gonna have to do it. We're gonna have to wait this one out, and that they did, but it simply didn't work. It was not effective. Once that Kit got the super back, they didn't have the tools in the toolbox to take advantage of him while he was vulnerable. We saw in particular, like Meg, she just doesn't do damage, man. All she does is stay alive and create space for your team. It's not really something that's going to get you anywhere versus a Kit and Miko, because they're not forced behind those walls. They want to be behind those walls so they can get the supers and then make the Kit Miko stuff happen.
I mean, Juan Carlos and Pain packed a punch of an entire zoo. They just dropped all the animals on him, brother. They just sent Kit flying, Miko jumping. Like, what are you supposed to do? 9 kills for Kit. What's supposed to be a support brawler ready? That's just insane. I'm still just... It's unbelievable that that was able to happen. The fact that it can happen maybe more than anything. And that buff to Kit certainly paying off there. I do love that the cardboard box was nerfed a little bit. The invisibility, very powerful in Brawl Stars. But seeing Kit be this strong is something that I'm definitely going to take note as we move forward into future weeks.
The thing is also that, like, okay, Kit received a slight nerf to the cardboard box. Okay, buddy, that's not even the gadgets that's used with this strat. You use Cheeseburger, like, here, kitty, you can have Cheeseburger, and he's feeding the monkey all day long. This is huge for Juan Carlos' team. Once again, I'm not sure how that made it through the draft. Obviously, Stamina, I mean, they figured it out. I want to believe that they thought that they could counter it by playing something normal. But it simply didn't work. We'll move into Rustic Arcade. This is the 3rd time that STMN in particular have had this map in the rotation. For Juan Carlos' team also, this is the only gem grab map. They have seen it by now. So the strategies have been concealed. Despite them facing some really tough opponents, they made it all the way to the grand finals, ideally without revealing their entire hand just yet. So I would say expect some craziness here, and once more, credit to them for making it through those earlier sets without revealing their most viable strats.
Yeah, a lot of credit, and I think in fairness, we're not going to see anything nearly as possible and crazy here, which to me signals that STMN have just as much of a fighting chance as anybody on a map like Rustic Arcade. This one traditionally plays more long range. We know what these guys can do. I mean, that's a combination that catches anybody off guard, and I think a very powerful one that could have beaten just about anybody in this region in the world, to be honest with you. So I think STMN have a real opportunity here to bounce back. Players equipped more doing so. And Max to power them up as well. So we see Amber go on the Juan Carlos team side, Max on the other end. Pairing Max and Amber can be very threatening for reasons in the past that we've seen for brawlers like Max Sims, Max Sandy. The amount of control that you can gain instantly is huge. So having a walking flamethrower is something that I think is a good call on STNN's end to eliminate. Pairing it with a Leon, though, that's pretty fun. We haven't seen that really.
I think in a lot of times, like, Leon's a good brawler when he's not counter. I mean, isn't any brawler super good when there's not a single counter to them? And lots of times, Leon is ever present in the draft. He will be banned out, or he'll just be countered so that he can't be picked. He's always hovering over the draft, kind of like Chuck in a heist. If he's not in the ban phase, he's influencing every single one of those picks. I think Leon is a stellar pick into the Amber. An Amber pick so early on is actually quite risky. This is one that you usually see a little bit later on. It's absolutely absolutely a lane brawler, but I think also picking your mid as a 4-5 does allow you to not be countered as hard by the enemy. You pick your mid brawl, your mid being countered is really disastrous here. And I think we also see some pretty viable mid options that are still open. Something like an 8-bit could be totally viable. We see STMN, they have that open. Max could be their mid here, but I think also they have the opportunity to last pick it. Juan Carlos team still got to select a mid brawler, because for the other two, I just don't see them being the strongest options on Rustic Arcade.
Interested to see what direction they go. By DPS, some good range. We know Lola can be solid here, so something safe. But I'm pretty excited about this STMN comp, to be honest with you. Max and Leon is something that we're seeing for the first time today. I think pairing Max with an aggressive or tanky brawler traditionally can work out really well just to get into the faces of enemies. So I think it makes a lot of sense to me that maybe the other end on Juan Carlos team, to equip themselves, they go with something like a Charlie with that cocoon to shut things down. The ultimate hypercharge stopper, if you will. And then Lola has an extra spawner with a shield as well if you elect to use that gadget. So I think those are ways to try and address that situation. But nonetheless, man, I think this STMN combo is potentially pretty fun.
These are all like the same brawlers and pieces. Oh, here comes the Sam. Yeah. We already know how this one goes on Rustic Arcade, folks. This is going to be taking quite a bit of damage from that Charlie and the Amber and the Lola, basically the entire enemy team. But STMN seem to believe in it. I think that Charlie is going to be quite effective into the Sam. The main thing about Sam, I don't think he'll be really affected by the spiders. He can deal with them very effectively. I think that Amber is good against anything that just runs at you, because you can simply hold down auto aim and hit every single shot. You have a ton of ammo to work with. But second best has Cocoon. Here we see Bobby immediately going for that gadget, and yeah, this is the interaction that I envision. That is where Sam is going to be good into Lola. In fact, Bobby, I mean, these hands are rated E for everyone. He's going to go for the entire tour of the enemy team. Pain only barely remains alive. Sands looks for the kill, and he gets it.
That is absolutely insane. I mean, I've seen Bobby play this brawler this week for some scrims. We know how good of a player he can be on the tanks, but that early interaction went all of their way, even a few extra punches in there too. But finally, Juan Carlos team with a little room to breathe for the first time this game.
STMN still maintaining the control in a bit of a curious way. They're maintaining control by playing a hyper-aggressive and not by holding their ground that they already have. They don't mind cycling out the kills here. We'll see second best to go in with the hypercharge. Has that super available, but he ended up not using it, so no spiders down on the ground, but they will get Bobby. This is an easy kill for all of Juan Carlos' team. Bobby tried his best. He got shut down. In the meantime, Juan Carlos' team will be able to push up to the side of STMN to give their best shot at taking down Zar, but they're simply not going to reach him. They're guarded by this wall of very aggressive brawlers that simply don't mind dying. Juan Carlos' team get pushed back every single time these players go aggressive, and by the time that they have gotten back to the effective line of scrimmage in the middle of this gem grab map, STMN are already equipped with that brawler respawning.
You can tell these guys are veterans because they were already playing the mind games with Leon. Second best was aware of this, taking some random yo-yo shots along the way to try and make the connection. Not too much value out of that Leon super, all things considered, so I think that's a great escape there for Juan Carlos team. As Sands right back in action, dropping the hypercharge here too. Multiple now down on the field, the second best being forced away. What's one more hypercharge for him to try and get some kills here? But Bobby bludgeoning his way through every enemy, has a launch pad if he elects to use it. Instead, just does it the old-fashioned way, running on 2 feet back to his spawn.
Sands can play aggro. He doesn't have anything to risk here. Bobby is second in command. Zar, as long as he's safe, then this looks good for them. Every member of Juan Carlos' team closes in on Zar in the back left, but they simply cannot get through. The teammates tanking for the gem carrier. It's game one. It goes to Stamina.
Fantastic work from Stamina. We saw in the draft phase that we were going to get some great entertainment value out of this set, and Bobby certainly delivered that with the Sam. We got some sneaky plays as well for Zar, who can pop off with the Leon invisibility, and then Max is there to just set up the teammates. Plenty of potential here for Juan Carlos' team. I think played a pretty good game overall, but just the huge firepower from STMN, especially Bobby in that early game, I think kind of set the standard for how that game was going to go.
Oh no, it's like I'm watching or listening to a record that's on repeat. Bobby gets the exact same interaction versus Charlie on the right lane. It's stuck in a loop. Bobby's going to do it again. Down goes second best. Bye-bye. Bobby now with the super once again, healing up a launch pad all the way back to mid where Juan Carlos awaits his arrival, and dead on arrival too. Juan Carlos team take back the control of mid. This is way better than we saw in the last game. Clearly, they've gotten a different start. I didn't see that for second best in particular, but that's simply the more alluring part of the map to watch. They were winning on the other lanes, and now Pain looks for the kill on Max, tries to run away with the gems.
Juan Carlos team doing such a good job at multitasking. The Cocoon going off, they know they have time to get another kill. Meanwhile, Pain focusing up top to get the expanded play, and by the time that Cocoon wears off, they've got two Brawlers ready to aim down sights, but STMN are just gonna hit him with all they've got. Hypercharge on the ground, invisibility for Sands. There's one pickup, Juan Carlos with low HP. Bobby electing what to do here. Not gonna pick up these gems, gonna leave them to be split between second best and Pain, but all the control in the world for STMN now.
Very prudent call there from STMN. That sort of treasure trove of gems waiting for you on the exact opposite side of the fields is so alluring. But Juan Carlos team would have respawned in time to take full advantage. We see the hypercharge pop by second best in response to the push in from Stamina, and it's good enough to keep them back. But he drops all of the gems. Bobby looks for the kill, instead goes down himself. There's a super in from Pain, the zoning super too. Azar was safe and sound, but he had to move away to do so. A gem grabbed by Juan Carlos is less than ideal for Juan Carlos team. It means that either Juan Carlos or Pain falling in these final moments would be enough to get the interrupt for STMN. Nothing so far. 1 second left. Bobby tries to close in, but it's no good. We see a match point incoming for Juan Carlos team.
Beautiful plays there from Juan Carlos team, who, believe it or not, are now on match point. What a crazy underdog story we've got today against a team that is desperate to claim points in STMN. They see the writing on the wall. No Tribe Gaming, early exit for them. LG, SSG, down for the count to even make it to this tournament. So STMN, if they win this month, could get some major points. But Juan Carlos team doing everything they can to halt their progress.
Bobby managed to get that set of Knuckle Busters on the other side of the Indestructibles somehow. I guess by throwing it at that wall where it would have been irretrievable over the water. Nonetheless, STMN, we saw Zar actually go down immediately, rushing in to grab those first few gems, which are so valuable. You can get 3 gems right off the beginning of the game if you're simply there before the enemy team. Juan Carlos team, though, have gotten 3 gems of their own. You see these spiders being used very quickly by second best. On the left side, Bobby's a dead man as every member combines forces like Power Rangers to take him down. Stamina still searching for any semblance of control at mid, and yet they come up empty-handed.
Map control for Juan Carlos team. Speed being dispersed for STMN. Bobby needs to have that pop-off play like we saw early on in games number 1 and 2. But all the Brawlers standing tall right now. A flank going down, immediately halted by a Cocoon. 3 spiders ensuing around Zar as well, who's forced a phase shift away. And now a 7th gem and a takedown being added for the blue side.
Juan Carlos team just 2 gems away from running this back. Safe and sound with a gem countdown to win a monthly final. But Stamina still persists at mid. Bobby throwing these Knuckle Busters at the wall, getting cocooned by second best, completely shut down by the enemy team. Now it's time for Juan Carlos team to move in. They need a couple more gems. It's only Zar to contest 1 more gem for Juan Carlos team. To start this countdown, STMN have the hypercharge on Max, but they don't have the super. Zar needs to get some shots in here. He's dangerously low. This gem looks prime for Juan Carlos team to pluck up, but they simply cannot safely. Bobby moves in. Big gadget, but no one to take advantage. Zar's gonna have to make the hero play. 2 hypercharges popped at once. It's Sands, the only one trying to get the kill on second best. The countdown interruption, he runs for the hills to the right side. Juan Carlos does not get close enough to the Knuckle Busters for Bobby to pull in, instead pulling the ego. It's 2 members of STMN to get this interruption. Either Pain or Juan Carlos have to fall.
And Zar very weak here with 8 on the count. They need to close down. They get 1. Juan Carlos team trying to hold on for dear life. They get a second, looking for a third. It's a team wipe, but a reset.
1 more chance for STMN to bring this back. It's only Pain to take down. 15 seconds remain. A missed super for Pain. No, Zara, he strafes right into it. It's a 2v3. Bobby looks for anything. Big pull, Sands, all of his shots are blocked in Juan Carlos team. Take the monthly final. They are your winners in North America for the month of April.
An underdog story for month number 2. Pain repping the jersey, and deservingly so. He hasn't won one since 2022. Second best since 2021. It's been a long time coming for these fellas, and finally they're no longer at the cusp of competing. They're the champions.
In este tiempo, in second best, pulling through, and Juan Carlos in Pain getting that glory that they have fought so hard to achieve. What a story. What a hard bracket for them as well. Not only did they have to defeat Tribe Gaming, but they had to go through the likes of STMN as well to make it to this point, replaying some maps, having to conceal their strategies, immense gameplay prowess being put on display here. And like you said, these players getting their first monthly final win in an entire year, or in another case, in the case of Second Best, in 2 years since he played on IX Gaming and his career was cut short that year.
It's crazy to think about. I mean, these guys have been around for a long time, having a lot of success, some of them even making it to the world stage, but this is a huge victory for them to start off month number 2. I mean, we talked about how STMN really needed to capitalize this month, and getting second place is pretty darn good. But Juan Carlos team in that kind of mid-tier mix as well of points. They had an early exit last month in the quarterfinals, and this month they show up, and all the people out there looking for an El Clasico, a possible Tribe STMN standoff like we're used to seeing in the past, not going to get it. They're just going to take them both down themselves.
NA only gets even crazier. A month where the top teams, 2 top teams in fact, did not qualify, following a month 1 where the top team from North America in terms of their World Finals performance did not qualify. Now going into this one, Stamina, they find themselves in yet another cruel second place following the World Finals, and now in their home region, presented with the opportunity to get a huge advantage, a massive leg up on their fellow World Finals grade teams. They fall short to Juan Carlos team, but not undeservedly so. Insane gameplay from Juan Carlos team today, and I think a remarkable draft. I'm not sure whether to call it a mistake on the end of STMN or a success on the side of Juan Carlos team that Kit Miko was drafted on Bell's Rock.
Double digits for the entire team on Juan Carlos team. Of course, headlined by the man on the camera, it was Pain. 15 kills as an Amber, and as a result, the people at home see it as well. The hard work paying off, and Pain going to be your MVP of our grand finals here, voted on by the people at event.brawlstars.com. I would have loved any of the 3 of them, but it makes my heart a little happy that the guy on camera does get it.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, he looks so happy as well. And did you see there towards the end as well? It looks like whatever Patchy did, I think he was referencing the whole like mewing thing, you know, shh, guys, check out what it's done to my jawline, has also been repeated by Tribe Gaming in the finals of last month after they won the grand finals. We saw, I believe, Sands do it after they won their match versus the remaining 7. And now Juan Carlos team, we see Pain do it on the cam. So maybe this is the year's meme. Okay, maybe it dies in the coming months, but it's cool to see it being repeated by every team that has gotten some wins in here.
Look, if nothing else, we've got some good jawlines here in NA. Good for everybody in the pro scene. It's been a heck of a day, though, already. I mean, a lot of competition, and Juan Carlos team had to get through some of the best to get here, only dropping 2 sets along the way.
Incredible stuff, honestly. I think we saw a great run for both teams. We saw some other things that were quite unexpected. Obviously, Juan Carlos team got a great run in the upper bracket. A total upset versus Tribe Gaming. Yet another upset versus STMN. I don't think quite an upset versus 512, but 512 did end the day securing sort of an upset of their own versus real ones. At least for 2 of us at the casting desk, it was an unexpected outcome. We saw a good win for remaining 7 esports as well, as they made it through the quarterfinals, but not quite past the semifinals. It has shaken up how our regional leaderboard looks, so I'm excited to see how that one pans out.
Oh man, 2 points separating Tribe Gaming and Juan Carlos team. I believe that's literally 1 upper bracket win separating those 2 teams right now, who are, of course, both winning the previous 2 months. Juan Carlos team just making that, and then Tribe Gaming winning it last month's unscathed. The remaining 7, though, at 132. West Coast in the mix with some consistency here. Real Ones and STMN finally on that leaderboard as well. A big note, though, Luminosity and Space Station Gaming, a couple of the semifinal and finalist teams respectively here in that final month that we had, are all the way down to 7th and 8th. That really goes to show how devastating missing a month can be.